You're listening to the More Than the Music podcast, episode 14, featuring Need to Breathe.
Honestly, that's probably the darkest time in my life by far. And not just that tour, but just those couple of years. Honestly, I didn't feel like I was listening to God at all. I felt like I was trying to get away from God as much as possible. If I had a desire at the time, it probably was like, I just wish that I wouldn't feel guilty about what I'm doing. I wouldn't feel conviction. I wouldn't feel running as hard as possible. And the end of that road is death. The consequence of sin is death. And that's like, it's not necessarily that I died, but I do feel like I almost wanted to.
You're about to hear how Need to Breathe went from preacher's kids playing in their garage to touring with Taylor Swift, how a fight between brothers Bear and Bo not only put one of them in the hospital, but almost ended the band, the crazy circumstances that led to one of their studio interns becoming their full-time drummer, and how the songs on their brand new album Hard Love represent all the good that's happening in the band. I'm Justin Paul, along with Bo, Bear, Seth, and Josh from Need to Breathe, and we're going to talk about a lot more than just the music.
More Than the Music is hosted by Justin Paul, a touring musician turned national radio personality who loves the dramatic, humorous, sometimes tragic, and often inspiring story behind the songs from your favorite artists. You can connect with the show at wayfm.com/Justin. Now here's your host, Justin Paul.
So thrilled to be joined by Need to Breathe, Bo, Bear, Seth, and Josh. Thank you so much for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Man, we're going to talk about Hard Love, the brand new record that just came out. Before we get into the music, let's start with how we got here today. I mean, there's a lot of story with Need to Breathe. You guys have been doing this a long time, but kind of catch us up and how we got to this 6th studio record.
I don't know where to start. We grew up together, so that's how the band got going. Me and Bo are brothers. We met Seth when we were about 7 years old, and the rest is kind of a long road in a van to this place. This is our 6th album, and the albums have changed a ton over the years. We've always sort of prided ourselves on that, partly because some of them didn't work. They failed, which was a good thing for us. And so we just got confidence in changing it up each time. And here we are with a new record that sounds nothing like our other records, and we love it. So hopefully everybody else does.
Yeah, you've been doing this since right out of high school, right? I mean, you guys have been playing music for a long time.
Yeah, I say this all the time. Seth just got married, which I don't know if we're supposed to talk about that or not, but
of course.
Why not?
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
Let's talk about that.
And I feel like we sort of robbed his youth because he was a little younger than us. So by the time I guess 16 or so, he was in the band, and he went to college, but we don't let him go for 1 year.
I'm sure Mom and Dad were proud about that.
Yeah,
huh?
no,
Yeah,
right?
a little mandatory dropout. Never hurt anybody.
Yeah, we started early and had no idea what we were doing. We were a small town, so we had I think when we're here in Nashville, sometimes people think that that's the way all towns are. It obviously isn't. So where we grew up, there were no bands doing anything like what we were doing. We had no idea how to get on the road, what to drive, how to tune our guitars on stage without people knowing. I mean, we made every, bad mistake possible.
Possum Kingdom, is that where you grew up? Is that right?
That's a real place.
That's for real?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Like, I grew up in a town called Chula, Georgia. Like, it's pretty redneck. I'm guessing Possum Kingdom is pretty redneck.
Yeah.
Let's think about the beauty, the the trees and the...
Absolutely. There's a lot of land where I grew up, probably the same for you guys.
Yeah.
Obviously, Barrett and Bo, you're brothers. Did you guys been playing music since you were kids, or is this something you just, when you got in your teenage years, you're like, let's start a band?
Yeah, more teenage years for both of us. But our mom was a piano teacher, which I think kind of put us off of music for a while because kids would be playing, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star all day in our house. And so I think for a long time we were just into sports, and probably around 15 or 16 we started getting involved. Our dad was a pastor, so there were guitars laying around at the church and chord sheets, and I think we both learned sort of in that similar way because we had to. They needed somebody to play for the youth group or something. And
At the same time, we drove the audio-visual department crazy at the church because we go up there on the weekends and...
They had audio visuals in Possum Kingdom?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Super high tech.
Wow.
Now, let me clarify.
Not as redneck as my
Let me
church.
clarify. It was one guy, and he didn't like this.
He was the audio.
He was the entire department. But now we would, because their dad was a preacher, we had the keys to the church, and we would go up there and just...
We would
set
take
up
the church
stage
van.
and create our dream show, when we were in high school. And one time they came on Sunday morning, we fell asleep on stage, and church was supposed to start. And
we had a bad
an hour.
reputation, is what I'm saying. We took advantage of our
Hey,
situation.
guys, wake up. We got church in 15 minutes. What are you guys doing here?
It's a similar story with a church van.
Yeah, we wrecked that thing. Pretty.
You wrecked the church van.
Lots of times. We'd lock the keys in it and leave it somewhere, or it'd break down. And most of the time, we just trashed it. We would take it on the weekends.
There's Cheetos everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been inside of a band's bus, van, whatever. It's not usually a pretty sight. Was that how the church van was?
Yeah, you take the seats out and put a mattress in the back so you can sleep and that whole thing.
So
I don't want to think about it. It's ugly.
They go to pick people up on Sunday mornings, and they got to put all the seats in and vacuum it. And
It's like this pastor's kid's jerk.
Making runs to pick up the little old ladies who can't drive themselves to church with your Cheetos and your bandanas all in the back seat and mattresses.
The church band was like,
I like that you went bandanas.
Yeah.
There's probably bandanas in our van.
I mean, your need to breathe.
That's true.
Like,
yeah.
There's bandanas, there's
Yeah,
hats.
we're bandanas, right? As brothers, what is it like working as family? Because I'm gonna be honest, I probably could not work with my family. My dad forced me to go to his mechanic shop every summer when I was a kid to work, and I hated it because I never got treated like an employee. I got treated like a son. So I don't know if there's that kind of relationship with brothers, but how is that growing up and now working together?
Bo, what's it like?
It's hard, man.
Yeah, I think it's good and bad, obviously. You can say more things, at least you feel like you can. You can be more honest with your siblings, so that can cause a lot of fights and be tough. But at the same time, you get to enjoy the big moments in life. People ask us that constantly about, when did you know you made it and all this. There's not like a given time. Literally amazing stuff happens to us all the time. And to be able to do that with your brother is a really cool opportunity.
You've been vocal about what happened on the previous record about you two literally getting in a fight. I mean, was this a real fist fight? This was not like some little, hey man, get off me, bro. This was like, you got upset. What happened there?
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. And the bottom line, it was a culmination of 1,000 fights, We were just in a bad spot as a band in terms of priorities, and everything we were doing for the wrong reason at the time. And it wasn't like an intentional thing. We woke up and we're like, we want to do this for the wrong reason. It happened over the years. And I just think that it came to a head and it was like, we can't do this anymore like this. And we had to go home and rethink all of that. And we feel incredibly fortunate, to still be doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing. I mean, talking about this new record, so much of it is a pretty happy, light record for us. We spent a lot of time in a dark place. And I think it's us coming out of that time as a band. We're having more fun than we ever have.
I've heard you mention before it was kind of a sibling rivalry type thing. Was that just something that went too far?
Yeah, it started that way. We had watched all these documentaries about, Lennon and McCartney or something like that. I know they're not brothers, but it just the idea of you had two writers challenging each other constantly. And at first it was like that. I would bring in a song and he would say, that's a good song, but I can do better,
Yeah.
And I think that really drove us. And we involved Josh and Seth in that too. We kind of treated them like brothers. But we just
You guys didn't get in a fight, did you?
No,
No?
we still love each other.
we just hugged.
Okay,
a
you
lot.
just hugged it out. Weren't any punches thrown? with
That
your-
is not
All right.
true. But yeah, I think that we sort of took that brother thing on for a long time. And then it just became, I think all of us we had a little taste of success, and did some really big things that I think was a little bit blinding to us. And we got to thinking that was more important than our relationship was. It's really easy to get off the stage and feel like it didn't go well, so then it must be someone else's fault.
Sure.
You can either think that or you think, man, I'm so thankful to be able to do this. And it's just, that mindset is totally different. So we used to be pretty hard on ourselves. Like, I played football in college, and so watching film was a big part of that. So I had that mentality when it came to the band. It's like, get off the stage, let's watch the film and see where everybody screwed up, and let's make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Who screwed up the most?
I screw up a lot.
Probably me early on.
Seth is a little bit of a screw up.
Yeah. Dang it,
No.
Seth.
No, it's when a bass player messes up,
How's that
everybody
supposed to
knows.
make me feel?
Seth's going to punch somebody after this interview. You mentioned being a football player. You got a scholarship to play football. So how did music and that collide when you're like, okay, I know I'm going in the music route?
Well, there was long hair hanging out of the back of the helmet.
Yeah?
Yeah, Seth wants to set the scene for... I think when I started playing guitar immediately, I started writing songs. So I knew that was going to be an important part of my life. I just didn't know how much. And then in college, they were really cool. I went to small school. The coaches were cool about it. Actually, a player before me had been a quarterback for the team that was really good, had been a musician too, kind of paved the way for that, literally, we would play shows after the games on Saturday night sometimes.
Nice.
So instead of riding the team bus home, I'd get on our bus and go play a show. I didn't study a lot. I'll say that.
Football and music, that was pretty much it.
Right, yeah.
I didn't study either, so it wasn't because of football, but I just didn't study a lot.
I'm just in like school. I'm like
all you
that.
kids out
I
there.
studied really hard for 1 year, and that made all the difference.
It was a solid year.
Yeah, similar story. I got in radio when I was 16, and I'm like, you mean I can make a living pushing buttons and talking? Why would I go to college for that? Kids listening to this, their moms and dads are going to be
not
like,
happy.
No, they're
so
going to be
upset.
thrilled. They're like, you just saved me so much money.
Yeah. I could be in a band and I could be on the radio. Go to school, kids. You'll make more money. So I did a little research, and going back to your childhood, you grew up listening to Christian music, big influences, DC Talk. Who else comes to mind?
DC Talk, the first record came out when we were like 7 years old, so that hit us between the eyes. It was rap, which we didn't know what that was, you know. I mean, it was just like, I think what hit us about that too is also gave us a lot of inspiration in terms of showmanship. Those shows were huge, and I remember going to those as kids and thinking that was amazing. And that really, even though it was 15 years later or whatever, when we started putting our shows together, we drew a lot from that. But I saw this guy Russ Taff when I was like, that was probably one of the first
Russ Taff.
concerts. Who else? I mean, we were at all the bad concerts.
David
too.
Carmen.
We were at Carmen.
Was that
and I think
obligation
we
as preacher's kids? You just had to go to those shows?
Mom didn't want us to listen to anything else besides Christian music. So we were the kids that listened. Like they had back in the day in the bookstores, they had the tapes in the back, the demo tapes you could listen to. And so we would just raid that closet. Literally, our mom would drop us off in the morning, and we'd come back in the afternoon, and we'd listen to every single new tape there was. It was either stuff like that, kind of cheesy pop, whatever, or like we were really into the metal. I don't know why,
Like
but they're
heavy Christian rock.
really heavy Christian rock. Like the best musicians in Christian music at the time were these like real metalhead guys.
Shredder.
So I mean, we were like,
Striper.
redneck kids at church or whatever, listening to.
And believe it or not, even then, my mom was like, I don't know. I don't think you should listen to this. And I was like,
This
but
band
we
is
got
called
this at the Christian
Tourniquet.
bookstore. She's like, it just feels a little angry.
They're saying freak. They're saying Jesus freak. Do you hear that? They're saying freak. So I did read somewhere that your church performed Heaven Bound once, and you guys rapped the verses.
That was
We
on
did.
Super Bowl Sunday.
Was that true?
We
Yeah,
had
it was.
halftime
It was a
show.
big event for the church, and it was obvious choice of song. My mom made us hammer pants.
I will say that's the one time we had
If you don't know what
choreographed dance.
anybody, that's like nobody knows what hammer pants are anymore. But they were like
MC
really,
Hammer, yeah.
yeah. There was like a pattern at Walmart you could make. So mom made those. They had the same necklaces, like cross necklaces. I think that we had bought at the DC Talk
Yep.
show,
That's right.
and then we choreographed a dance, and we each did a verse.
Could you still do the verse?
I could still do the dance.
Probably. It was that.
mean, I've got it
I had
queued
the
up
Toby
right
Knight
now.
version. I got the Cole rapping for the king.
Which verse is this?
We'll get to the verse. Do you still want to know words?
I don't know. That's a lot cheesier than I remember. My voice knocking down men and women, but I'm laying a choice. Higher ground is the sound that I'm talking of. Opportunity comes with different love. Not love like you know it, like you love your girl. Love from above, it's not of this world. It's kind of profound. Trump sound. All God's children will be heaven bound.
Yeah! Dude, you know there's a cruise. You guys should be on the DC Talk cruise when they do that.
I heard
The
about
Jesus-
the cruise.
The Jesus Freak
We didn't get
cruise.
invited. I'm
Are you-
talking to Toby.
Are you like, when you see DC Talk and people you grew up with, are you like fanning out, or are you just going, these guys are,
We were talking about that.
we're on that level now?
Secretly.
Yeah, we are. We were talking about that. It's weird because we obviously get to do a lot of things in the secular market too. So being around like the stars in that world, or maybe athletes or whatever it is, for some reason, for me, the first time we did the Dove Awards or whatever it was, and we saw all those people in the same place, that was way more terrifying than it was, when you first meet Springsteen or something like that. Because to me, we just had that was our youth was made up of those shows, and it's probably that way for whatever people listen to when they're 8 years old. It's like the thing that lasts, So I do fanboy or whatever you want to call it. But
Bear's a huge Sandy Patty fan too.
massive.
Oh, you love Sandy Patty?
Yeah.
I don't have that queued up, or I'd play it.
This is true though. Our drummer now told us that he used to sell tapes at school. Nobody knows what cassettes are. I know this is totally.
Actually, I heard they're making a comeback.
Yeah,
they are. It's a
are.
hipster
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he used to take Sandy Patty tapes and record over it like secular music that his parents wouldn't let him have, and then he would sell those tapes at school, which I think is amazing.
Is that legal?
No, it's not legal. It's definitely not legal.
The
But it
Sandy
is-
Patty was huge in North Carolina. In
Yeah, in Asheville, North Carolina, that school, they
like wow,
she's really selling through these records.
Like, why are we seeing so many sales? Oh, that's not really Sandy Patty. You alluded to this earlier, but you talked about how you were doing stuff like Taylor Swift tours, and you felt like that kind of maybe led you down a road and a path you didn't necessarily want to go down. Is that kind of where Money and Fame, the song on the new record, comes from?
Yeah, I think so. The story really is, the chorus, what do you kids want to know about now? It kind of sounded like sort of an attitude-y thing. And for a while, I didn't know if that was too arrogant. We haven't had that much money or that much fame. So I was really hesitant about bringing that song to the band. And it's really a metaphor for all of that. If that is the goal of what you do, you really have to sort of sell your soul to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that we saw was just how ugly that can get and how willing to saying that, there's a lot of great things about it. I mean, I think if we would have had the right heart for what we were doing when we were on the Taylor tour, it would have been fine. It wasn't, I'm not it's like I'm out there saying Taylor's terrible or anything. It's not that. Just think you can really get blinded by those things as the reward, whether it's money or fame or, or even just being liked or you needing the attention.
Did you feel like in that time that maybe God was trying to show you something, what was important? I mean, you mentioned family, putting family first, but what did you feel like God was saying to you during that time to help you get back on track?
Yeah, honestly, that's probably the darkest time in my life by far. And not just that tour, but just those couple of years right there. Honestly, I didn't feel like I was listening to God at all. Just to be totally honest with you, I felt like I was trying to get away from God as much as possible. I've told people if I had a desire at the time, it probably was like I just wish that I wouldn't feel guilty about what I'm doing. I wouldn't feel conviction. I wouldn't feel I was running as hard as possible. And the end of that road is death. The consequence of sin is death, and that's like it's not necessarily that I died, but I do feel like I almost wanted to. I mean, there's such a despair at the end of that, and I think really getting to the bottom of that and going, man, I cannot run far enough. And I obviously can't do this myself, and I need God to do it. And literally the day I feel like almost that I sort of confessed to that and realized it and changed that, I felt like I was closer with God than I ever have been.
Sure.
It gave me a different feeling of, I think we all think about like our relationship is growing in God constantly, and that's true. But at the same time, God loves sinners. He loves people that know they need him. And I think that's kind of where I was.
The band almost ended over that, right? You guys Bo and Bear had to mend and build your relationship, even though you were brothers. I mean, that's where the song, it's not on this record, it's where the song Brother comes from. Oftentimes the people that we love the most, those are the hardest ones to say I'm sorry to.
Yeah, I think that's for sure. We definitely weren't in the habit of saying we were sorry.
Yeah.
And a big portion of, I'd say that all the time from stage about how we changed everything about what we did. And mainly it was that. We even wrote it down. And we came back to the band and to the other guys in the band, to our whole crew, and said, hey, this is what matters to us. If we're going to be in the band, we're going to be brothers first, and then we're going to be a band. Which also means, one weird pressure about being brothers or even really good friends in a band is the feeling that you depend on them for your livelihood. And so there's this unspoken sort of like, listen, we can't break up. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
then I can't feed my kids, So there's not an out. And so a big portion of that was us saying, look, if any of us feel like we're supposed to do something else or God's telling us we should move on, then we're still going to be cool. This is not going to be a fallout situation. So if you want to end this, let's do it. I think that freedom really is what we live in now.
Were you more there than Bo? Was Bo the one going, all right, let's figure this thing out?
I don't know. I think we were in a pretty similar place.
Yeah.
I think we had reached a different, I can't speak for him exactly, but I could say that I know, at least I felt that both of us, our frustration level was through the roof, and we had come to the terms with, I think both of us had felt like we were going to quit if something didn't change.
fair or not, sometimes, people see bands touring with Taylor Swift and then they hear them on YFM or Christian radio. You kind of get put in this box and associated with every other band that's on the station. But Need to Breathe is totally different from pretty much every band we play. I mean, you guys are unique in a way that you're doing things that other bands aren't doing. How do you define those labels? I mean, do you care about that stuff?
Honestly, I don't think we care that much anymore about the label part. I joke about this all the time. We're probably the only 4 guys, in the world that don't think we're a Christian band. In our heads,
sure.
Just because we don't want to be limited to that, and we set out wanting to talk to people outside of the church. That was our whole goal. That's what the record Outsiders was all about. Mm-hmm. And that's really what our heart still is. Saying that, I think we've given up on the idea that we have some vision for the band that it has to be. We kind of do what we do, and we give it to God, and what happens, happens. Mm-hmm. So it's been crazy. I mean, we put a worship song on our last record, and only would have happened if we were in that place of man, we just need to do this right now.
Sure.
It wasn't we need a Christian single, that's whatever. It's just, I think we were in a place in life that was asking for that, and it made sense, and we did it. And I still think it's crazy how many doors are open in the, mainstream world for us. It's not like we're making our first record. We're making 6 albums, and we still have a major label that wants to put singles out in that world and put us on soundtracks and stuff. That blows me away. And not because that wasn't what our heart was or what we wanted, but to still have that opportunity is just a really cool thing, because I think, at least in that world, they haven't written us off, which I think is pretty amazing.
Well, the opportunity to share about who Jesus is, you often have to go into the dark places to do that. If you're in the light the whole time, then how are you going to ever reach people in the dark? Yeah. I mean, what an opportunity on a Taylor Swift tour or anybody you've been touring with to really do that. Once they dig into who Need to Breathe is, they start to figure out, okay, there's more to this than just music.
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard stories of people that have responded to your music in that way, right?
Sure. There's a million of those stories. And to go back to one of your points about our goal for this record was cultural relevance. We kept saying that. That's part of why we want to be in the Christian world and the mainstream world. It's not like we want to be in one or the other. But I'd heard an interview with Adele, kind of like we're doing today, and half the questions from the audience was about, raising kids or about things, outside of music. And it just hit me, man, she had such a huge record. She's been invited into people's homes and thoughts and ideas. She's, young, but she's still speaking into their lives in that way. That's, I think, what we really would like to do with the music, and we hope that the music goes that way. And saying, the stories we get back are the reason we write music, because the stories are bigger than our ideas for the songs. One of the first times that happened to us, we had this song called More Time that Bo had written for his wife, and really heartfelt song, but it was clearly for his wife. Mm-hmm. And people would come up and say, that song saved my marriage.
Wow.
And that hit us really hard, obviously being from a small town and being somewhere, across the country and hearing that, but also just seeing how, if we're just honest in the songs about our experience, God will blow that up to relate to a ton of other people in a different way.
Another song on the record that I have some questions about is this song, No Excuses. I want to know, what are you who are you talking about here? Okay, you got to hear the song because
it's a dark song. It's one of the heavier songs.
It sounds like someone was cheating on somebody. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I'm really that's an interesting song because it's I almost didn't want to put that on there lyrically because it sounds like I'm accusing someone else, but really that song is written about myself. And so when I'm saying no excuses, I'm really talking to me. A lot of times when I'm writing a song, I'll try to flip that narrative a little bit where it's easy to kind of criticize yourself. They've got plenty of things in my past that I can, there's just a lot of whatever mistakes that I've made. So it's easy for me to look back at that and that's sort of inspiration.
So nobody's cheating on anybody. We're good. It's not like drama going on here, right, with the band or anything.
Not anymore. We're all good.
All right.
We love each other.
'Cause there's no excuses for what you're doing. There's no excuses for what you're doing.
Seth, you just got married a few weeks ago, right?
I did.
Your wife, she moved to Charleston. She left her news anchor job, right, to come do that in Charleston to be with you.
Yeah,
I mean,
she was in Houston, which is like a top 10 news market.
Yeah.
And on her way up, and she is taking a detour now in Charleston because it's a smaller city.
She did that for you, man.
I know she did. She's really set the bar high.
At Bolt Farm, there's a studio and a luxury treehouse. What
So-
else do you have hidden out there?
Well, all kinds of stuff. It's like 40 acres, but a lot of like really great things for the band happened there. We actually had 2 different studios on that piece of property because we practiced in the garage before we got kicked out of the garage, and then we practiced in the attic and recorded all our first demos and songs there. So I wanted to get married there because it's such a special place for me and for the band, and it was really cool. We finished the record, like officially finished. Everything's mixed and mastered like 2 days before I had my wedding there. So it was nice to like just kind of relax and be with my guys. And
It was fun too because we got to go. We went out on the lake. All of us went out and we listened to the record from the top.
Near-death experience tubing.
Uh-oh.
Tubing. Three of us on like in a line holding on.
There was one of these boats. They have boats now, like the loudest speakers of all time. I think it's for wakeboarding or something, but it's like it sounded better than our studio sounds. It was amazing.
No
But
one
that's
got
what-
injured, I hope, right? Everybody's good?
I have a pretty gnarly scar. Like,
Are you still messed up, man?
pretty bad? Really.
You're all like limping, walking down the aisle as
the wedding,
groomsmen.
we're like trying to like lift things, and our arms are just dead.
Dude, so I'm looking at this. Am I saying this right? It's a luxury treehouse. It's on Airbnb as like the #1 place to stay in South Carolina.
yeah, I was fortunate to grow up with a dad who was a carpenter, and so we built the house that I grew up in together. I don't know, it was a unique childhood to kind of do things that way. And just recently, we got to build the treehouse side by side with my dad. Like, we were even out there on Father's Day, and it was like, man, this quality time is everything.
Yeah.
And,
Most kids build a treehouse over the summer. Like, you've built one that people pay to sleep in. That's pretty crazy.
Which sounds like the worst idea ever. It took me like 2 years to convince my parents that this was a good idea. They were like, this will never work. I'm like, trust me, it'll work.
I mean, it's booked for like the next 6 months.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
treehouse, right? I mean, like,
it is, but it's more of a place to like disconnect and
Sure.
relax. Because that's what I use it for, because as fast paced as life is now in America, I feel like that time to just totally rest your soul is really important.
yeah.
The toughest part is now that I can't go there.
Now he can't go. It's booked.
I was like,
Oh, you
yeah,
can't
we
stay
were at
there
the
'cause it's
wedding.
booked.
I was
Yeah,
like, can you
right,
show us
yeah.
the treehouse? He's like, no, somebody's in there. I'm like,
Even for my honeymoon, I had to like contact a couple people and be like, hey, like, can I use my treehouse for my honeymoon? I know you've I'm like, you can come back and stay for free sometime else.
Hey, man, I'm kicking you out. This is my honeymoon. You got to go. Get out of my treehouse. Bo, I was looking on Instagram. You do like a lot of art stuff too, like drawings and such. One, you like some eyeliner art. How'd you get into eyeliner art?
Well, I don't know if it's a real thing or not, but
No, it's a real thing. It's on Instagram.
So I walked in to our bathroom, and my 3-year-old son, he's 4 now, had just blanketed the entire cabinets with mom's eyeliner. But then I kind of saw the strokes on there, and I was like, that's a cool kind of paintbrush kind of vibe, but it's like really thick and dark, and I was like, well, that's a good idea. And so I started sketching stuff with it. Yeah, so it just turned into
Now you're an
another
Instagram
medium.
sensation.
Yeah.
No, I've seen some of the stuff you draw. Like it's made it onto merch and stuff, right? I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
To me, I always thought that was going to be more of the direction of my life. And at first, the music thing I felt like was going to be a little bit of a detour from that. But it's actually, enabled me to be able to do so many things in art, from like stage production and
Nice.
video ideas and record covers and T-shirts and all that stuff. It's crazy that literally anything that I would have dreamt to ever do in art, music has given it a road.
Music's art. They just kind of blend together. It
Yeah,
just kind of makes
yeah.
sense. Seth, another interesting story that came out of your studio. Your drummer now, Randall, was an intern at your studio, right? Like this is the stuff that needs to be made in a movie.
his life
His
should
life
be
is a movie for sure.
Yeah,
The Ballad of Randall Harris.
but he's not here. Where
Yeah,
is
so
he?
we can talk about
We
it.
can talk about
He's out getting us coffee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm saying if you need a drummer, I know a guy.
So this long story short of him being in the band was he was an intern. We had no idea he played drums. He was out with us on the road for 2 years. No idea he
No
even
idea.
played the drums. And one day I was doing a demo when our drummer had left, and I was like, Seth, you know anybody who plays? He's like, I think Randall might play, and he went in there and he killed it. Me and Josh were actually in the studio in the control room, so we couldn't see him playing, and we're like, couldn't believe it was, and we were crying laughing that it was this guy, because he's not like especially he doesn't play it cool. He seems like an intern at a studio is what he seems like, And then he just killed it on the drums. He blew it. So, but other day he comes in rehearsal, and we were doing this version of a song, and we had asked for a xylophone or something, but he got a full marimba. Marimba is this massive,
It's big as this couch.
It is a huge instrument, which is really hard to play. It's like one of these things where you play like with 4 mallets, like between your fingers and all.
Oh my gosh!
And he literally says this. He's like, actually, this is what I got my degree in. And we were like,
and what was it called again?
He's like, I'm
it's
more
a marimba.
qualified to play this than
I am drums. And then we're like, okay, that's like not exactly the kind of thing you'd hear from Randall after knowing him for years,
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, oh, I can't play these mallets. I got to go get these other mallets. And he has made his own mallets. And he can only play with his own mallet.
Were you guys about to start auditioning for drummers?
Oh, we did.
You did?
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, there's this kid at my studio.
Well, what's crazy too is he was in there when we made records, and like I would say 80% of record making is deciding where the drums go. Like where's the kick pattern? Is it this or that? Getting the groove right. Not once, as we were having those arguments, and we have long conversations about this, like what the kick pattern should be. And never once was he like, maybe it should be this.
He just waited for his time.
The control that takes is unbelievable.
Just waited for his time.
Yep.
Another song on the album, obviously that people have heard so far, is this song, Happiness. What's the story behind Happiness?
Yeah, I think it's sort of a little bit what we were talking about earlier about what you're pursuing and are you pursuing it for the right reasons. I think it's what makes kind of what we do now okay to us. We go on the road a lot. We have to leave our families, and it's just a tough thing. And if the goal of that is happiness, if it's blind ambition, then it hurts the people around you and it doesn't get you where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about the difference between ambition and faith. I think faith leads to purpose, and ambition leads to just more ambition. I think that's kind of what the song really is about. It's like, what are we really pursuing here? Is it the right thing? If it is the right thing, it can be amazing.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of sort of having an argument with yourself about, is this dream for real, and is it worth pursuing?
Three of you guys have kids now. How do you balance all that with this music career? I mean, you're stinking touring like crazy. Family's obviously important to you, so how do you balance all that?
We've changed how we do it. We just don't tour as much as we used to do. Probably almost 200 shows a year. We did for 7 years in a row, and probably a little too late. We waited until Bo had a kid before we adjusted to that a couple of years later. But we put family first in that stuff too. We bring them out on the road as much as possible. We tour way less. We just put a big point of emphasis on bringing the families out when we can. Our families are close, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
My son's not old enough to tell me don't leave yet, which I know is like the critical point with Bo's kids. That's a hard thing. It's like, why are you working? Why are you leaving? But I feel that coming.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're just managing that so much better. We've seen not only family, but just inspiration. You need as much time and rest as you can get.
Yeah.
And so when you don't do that, you lose all the inspiration. It just becomes all work. And that's not fair to us or our families or the fans,
Mm-hmm. 2 songs on this record that are kind of polar opposite. This song, Great Night, and then the song, Let's Stay Home Tonight.
Yeah.
Which one is more Need to Breathe? Are you more like, let's go have a dance party, or are you more like, let's just stay home? It may be different for each of you.
It's great. Yeah, so I wrote Let's Stay Home Tonight to my wife. The idea of just I'd rather not have to go do something. Not as much about not partying as much as it is just like us together rather than being around a lot of people. Let's just focus in on each other.
So you're more of the homebody.
I can definitely be the homebody. Some of my friends are like, when I talked about the Great Night, they're like, the dancing is really a metaphor with you, isn't it? It's like, you're not much of a dancer. And it kind of is. I think Great Night really is about, we wanted to write a song about how we felt about life. It's like, let's go enjoy it and not overthink it as much and really take those small things and those moments don't take them for granted. Just make the most of them. So I think we are, as a band, we probably, I don't know if I would use the term party, but we hang together more than we ever have. And we just want to celebrate. We want to celebrate every little thing.
But what about you, the homebody or the let's get out of the house?
I'm a bit of both. I think when I'm on the road, I want to hang out. I want to, we stay up, play video games, and just like I'm always down to go wherever and sightsee and all that. But when you get home, then I'm a homebody.
Yeah.
So like I can totally flip it off and just be content with staying at home all day.
My wife works from home, so when I get home, she's like, let's go somewhere. And I'm like, no, I've already been somewhere. I want to stay home. Seth, what about you?
I usually like try to get out of the country.
Okay, well, that's a big difference.
He's a world traveler.
Yeah. I do like to travel a lot. I feel like just for me, there's a lot of inspiration to draw from that, seeing the way different cultures do things. And it's kind of cool to see the balance, I think, as well, that some cultures have. Offers a lot of perspective on maybe a different way to do things that isn't quite so busy.
Yeah. Josh, you got wife and kids, so what are you doing on the weekends?
Yeah.
Well, you're playing in a band on the weekends, but I mean,
I'm a little bit of both. I
Yeah?
think. But we did a cruise earlier this year, which was we took all of our wives and crew, and they took all their wives. So when we think of this song, the Great Night thing, I always think of all of us. None of us really are dancers by any means.
Actually, Josh is a dancer.
Well, I wasn't
That's
going to
not-
say it, but I was hoping somebody would. But
like
we all-
what kind of dancing?
Well,
Like there
That's
is
a
a
whole
video
other
of
thing.
Josh.
A whole other thing.
There's a video of Josh. It's probably on YouTube somewhere. I don't know. But of him in an NSYNC cover band in high school.
Seriously? Is
And
this true?
literally,
This is real.
he was the Timberlake character.
What?
in the
I actually
thing.
did wear the bandana and like
Yeah.
the whole-
Dance, dance. Like you can do it?
Yeah, he can do all the moves.
Yeah, well, I used to be able to. That's a long time ago.
Back in my day.
But it was fun. We all everybody kind of got out on the dance floor and.
You know, they have on the cruises, they have this silent disco thing, and our wives love that more than anything, more than they love us.
gotta
They
find that video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
Let's have a great night on the dance floor. I'll be the cowboy on the wild horse, and if we don't drown when we're swimming the shore, I'll be the third in line to get us some more.
You mentioned going out of the country. You guys do some great stuff with charities. Working with people in Nicaragua. Also, you've done stuff in Uganda. This is important to you guys, the charity work that you do.
Yeah, I think it's become more and more our favorite thing that we get to do. You know, we do a golf tournament every year, which has become like a crazy success that we had no idea. I mean, we're not that good at golf, and we've never done an event like that. But we've had a ton of friends come down, and play it. And this year we had Carney and Switchfoot and all these, a bunch of big bands come and play. And then I've been to trips. Me and Seth have both been to Uganda together. I just went to Nicaragua to do the groundbreaking for a clinic that the fans built.
Nice.
Which is to me is like the pinnacle of what's happening, which is $1 of every ticket that people buy to come to a Need to Breathe show goes towards that golf tournament and all that. And last year we raised $250,000, which is enough to buy a clinic that's sustainable there. So staffed by people that live there and runs on its own after that startup cost. So pretty cool thing to see. The building is not there. We're going back in December to do the groundbreaking, probably do a little concert in a village in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
And it's amazing what one little clinic can do.
Mm-hmm.
And our fans are now like a part of that. The clinic that Bear and I visited in Uganda is now seen almost 100,000 people. So just the next time you're in a stadium
That's
full of
awesome.
people for
Yeah.
a college football game or something, just think like, wow, this is how many people just a small clinic can help in a developing country.
Are you guys any good at golf, or are you just like, let's just throw a golf tournament because we
So that's
want to help
pretty
raise
good.
some money?
So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I played in high school a little bit. I wouldn't say I have a beautiful swing.
Like Tiger
But it
Woods
gets the
good? I
job
mean, I know that's like
no,
the pinnacle, but
no,
like,
we're not like scratch. So that's probably like a legit 10 handicap.
all right.
I'm hoping on a good day I can beat Toby Mack.
Has he been to your golf tournament?
He's really good.
He has not yet.
Well, he's also good at cornhole, which is something you guys love to play too.
Oh, yeah.
I
We're
think.
really
we
good
played
at
here
that.
in Nashville.
Well, Toby, I don't know.
Really?
Like
Really?
Toby's like.
We'll have to set something up. for
He's a
that.
You guys
competitive
need to
guy.
have that.
He's a really competitive
Maybe that's
guy.
We
instead of your
actually
golf
compete
tournament.
a
But so
lot.
are we.
Maybe it's
I know.
cornhole tournament.
We hold practices, so I don't know.
You have practices.
Yeah, and we're really sticklers for the rules too and regulations. So he probably
weight
yeah.
has to be regular.
I think that's a challenge. I think we got to make this happen.
Okay. My dream would be to have like a multi-sport competition between bands.
Oh yeah.
Like basketball, golf, bowling, tennis,
Tic-tac-toe.
televised.
Charades.
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
Seriously, Scrabble.
Who's the
whatever.
best at everything?
Scrabble. Yeah. One of the last few songs on the record is this song "Testify." Tell me about this one and why it's important to you guys.
I think for us, like we on this record, is a lot of clarity and kind of realizing what we do and why we do it, and we're very thankful for our job, and then we get to play music. So the song "Testify" is ultimately about recognizing where it's coming from. That's the joy that we get to do, is we get to, reflect God's glory. And we're not a worship band, but we certainly understand where the music is coming from, where the inspiration's coming from. And so it's fun for us to sing about that.
I think that song is a good example of a departure for us, at least on this record for now, where I think we were in a place when you're going through a tough time or not, I guess, you have this sort of judgment thing running through music, especially when we start writing songs. You're like, what can I teach someone, which we've always tried to avoid as much as possible. But this record in general is more about just telling about how good it is, how good things are right now, not pointing something out that's wrong.
Give me your heart, give me your song, sing with all your might. Come to the fountain, you can be satisfied. There is a peace, there is a love, you can get lost inside. Come to the fountain, and may you testify. There is a peace, there is a love, you can get lost inside. Come to the fountain, let me hear you testify.
Guys, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being so real and so honest and for sharing the stories behind these songs. It's been a blast.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the More Than the Music podcast, episode 14, featuring Need to Breathe. If you've enjoyed this episode or any others, would you kindly give the show a 5-star rating and review inside iTunes? Your 5-star rating and review would be greatly appreciated. I'm Justin Paul. To connect with the show and even have a chance to win Need to Breathe's latest album, Hard Love, which was featured in this episode, just go to wayfm.com/Justin.